Max is the first iPhone I've ever used. And don't worry, I'm not switching completely off Android anytime soon. But man, I really do like it. After testing what seems like a million different Android phones, I think it's pretty safe to say that iPhone is boring. But sometimes you just want your phone to be a phone and a tool and something that can last all day and take photos in pretty much any situation. And that's exactly what the iPhone 11 Pro Max has been for me. I think it's easy to get caught up in gimmicks. And in the Android space, you see gimmicks everywhere because competition is just so high. But Apple doesn't really do gimmicks. They're not out here making 108 megapixel cameras and 65-watt fast charging. They do most things a lot later than everybody else. And I can say the iPhone isn't really as fun, but after using this for a bit, I can say that I kind of enjoy the silence. Look, I'll admit, I'm coming from a Pixel 4, and after the Pixel 4, I was a little bit disappointed in Google. The battery life is really bad, there was no wide-angle camera, and it just felt like they weren't really competing with the rest of the market. I came out of the Pixel 4 review feeling like it's technically amazing, but it lacked what I really want in a phone, which is the basics. So when we look to the iPhone 11 Pro, Apple seems to have nailed all the basics. The battery life is insane. For reference, I unplugged this at 9 a.m. yesterday and is currently 11:30 in the morning today, and I still have 35% left. The Pixel 4 would not even last one day. Now, the Pixel is always used to crush the iPhones in charging speed too. The Pixel 1 had 18-watt charging. But now, Apple has also upgraded the charging speed of the Pro models of these phones, and they also have 18-watt charging. Okay, so the Pixel used to have the upper hand in the camera department, right? And I still think that the Pixel 4 takes slightly better photos than the iPhone 11 Pro, but the iPhone 11 Pro has a wide-angle camera. And whether or not you say that you're going to use that a lot, I found myself using it all the time, and I just feel like the iPhone is a much better tool in that respect. As for overall image quality, iPhones always take slightly warmer photos. I definitely prefer the Pixel 4's photos and color balance a little bit better, but the iPhone has gotten really, really close this year. The Deep Fusion update didn't really seem to make a huge difference on the iPhone, but overall, the cameras have gotten really good in the iPhone 11 series. The iPhone 11s also have a built-in night mode now, and it's not quite as good as the Pixel 4's night sight or Astro mode in my testing, but it's still pretty darn good. All right, so of course there are things that I don't like about iOS, and first of all is going to be the interface. Why do you have to keep all of your apps on the home screen still in 2019? And why do you have to press the settings app in order to access the settings? It's really annoying that you have to go back to your home app and then open the settings app just to toggle some basic features, and I really feel like Apple needs to add that to the notification shade. And speaking of notifications, they just keep piling up and up and up on the home screen. If you don't unlock your phone, you just see a ton of notifications on there, and they're kind of grouped now, but not nearly as grouped as I would like. And oh yeah, I really miss Google Assistant. On the Pixel 4 and pretty much any other Android phone, I used it all the time, and Siri is just not there yet. So for overall experience, yeah, I still have to give it to Android on my end, but honestly, it just kind of sucks that most apps are developed first or better for iOS. There's a lot of camera apps and cinematography apps that just aren't available on Android yet, and a lot of apps for things like sliders are also only available on iOS. Now that is because iOS is just easier to develop for, so it makes sense, and also because in the US at least, a majority of people have iPhones. And I think there's this meme that goes around about how Apple products just work and sometimes they mess up. But honestly, there are a lot of features in the iPhone that do just work. AirDrop is pretty amazing. The vibration motor on the iPhone 11 Pro has not been beat since the iPhone 6, and Face ID is really consistent. Now, unfortunately, most of these things that just work do require you to be really bought into the Apple ecosystem. For example, AirDrop only works with other Apple devices like iPhones or MacBooks, and iMessage only works with other iPhones. So it really requires you to be built into their walled garden, and that kind of sucks. Now that doesn't mean that you can't use an iPhone without having a MacBook or AirPods or an Apple Watch. I use a Xiaomi Mi Band, I use Windows laptops, and I use whatever Bluetooth headphones that I have at the time. It's just that they don't work quite as seamlessly, and Apple does a really good job of making sure their products work really well together. So yeah, I really do like this thing, but I should note, the cost of owning an iPhone is as high as you've probably heard. Now I'm just going to read this off the list here because I don't think I'm going to be able to remember the prices, but if you don't have AppleCare, it costs $329 to get the screen replaced, $599 for the back or other replacements. That's like the same price as a OnePlus 7T. And even if you do have AppleCare, which costs $199 for the standard version and $299 if you want theft or loss protection, it's gonna cost you $29 for the screen and $99 for the back or other fixes. And that makes the total cost of owning a baseline 64GB iPhone 11 Pro Max about $1,100 before tax or AppleCare. And I think 64GB is kind of skirting the bottom of what most people need. And the next tier up is 256GB, which is going to cost you $1,250 before tax and $200 to $300 more for that AppleCare protection. That's really expensive. But look, at the end of the day, I do understand why people like iPhones and Apple products and iOS. In the United States, at least, most people have carrier plans, which only requires them to pay $30-ish per month. And the difference between like $25 a month and $30 a month to most people here is pretty negligible. And again, I do like the Android experience and Google Assistant way more than I like iOS. But the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max really just nail the basics, and I think that's what most people want. So that's gonna about do it for the iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. Let me know if you have any comments or questions. I know it's a little bit weird that we're reviewing Apple products now on Android Authority, and some of you might get mad about that, but they are phones, they are products that we use in our daily life, and I think it's important to understand both sides of the lawn. So until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.